So I'm here. You guys know me a little bit. Maybe some of you do. But I'm kind of here to talk about bringing quality videos out of your budget. Because at the school that I go to, or I went to last year, we didn't have a lot of supplies, with which to make videos and with which to, to do things. We actually literally had one Mac, and that was the only computer that we could use to do video on. And so throughout the year, we were working on a variety of videos because everybody in the school who wanted a video done for anything would come to the journalism club and ask us to do it. And so at the end of the year, we were all freaking out because we had this one computer and nothing, and all this stuff to do. And so we started looking into ways to make videos in other ways, with cheap programs or programs that weren't intensive, on a computer so that you could use them on just a normal PC with, like a Core 2 Duo processor with Intel video card. So yeah, without further ado, first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about basic video making techniques because the basic stuff really does matter. When you're putting together a manuscript, you have to start, with brainstorming, as you start any sort of creative endeavor. Want to hear about, things people are gossiping about, all that kind of stuff. And you work off of that. And then you ask who, what, when, where, why. And I didn't put this up there, but how as well. Because that's a really important question as you're fleshing out your story. You want to know how it is that the things are unfolding. And then figure out what kind of story you want to tell. Basically work out your angle. What do you want to say about the story? What do you want the people who are reading it to think about whatever it is? And then, when you're planning out your script, and this is something that works for me because I start out with a kind of skeleton of a script really, really early on in the video making process. And I've found that for a lot of people this doesn't work because they are kind of inflexible. It's really, 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 really important to be willing to go back and edit your script over and over and over again as you get interviews and as you, and as you take B-roll and as things unfold. It's really important to stop and look at your story and say, okay, where is this going? And if it's going in a different direction from your original script, then you have to address that, and think about whether or not that's what you want. And act accordingly. So do research on your topic as well. It's also really important. You don't want to just jump into an interview not really knowing anything about it. I guess you could do that, but bless you. But it's not really something that you should do. So find statistics and find questions that need answering. So plan out your interview questions. Kind of think about how people might respond, but don't plan too much. Don't count your chickens before they hatch and all that. Because you never know. Somebody might say something just out of nowhere that completely contradicts everything that you thought that they were about. And you might have to change your story a little bit because of that, or your angle a little bit because of that. And visualize your final product. So what helps me is to put together a chart like this, audio on one side, video on the other, and just kind of go through and think through what you want your story, your final video to look like. of course, it's going to change a lot, and you got to be ready for that change because it happens. And I keep. Is there any way to make this microphone not like do that?
It's really annoying. No, that's why I don't use it because it's really annoying. You can hold the little ones. Oh, y'all said it didn't work very well. I'm sorry. It's awful.
Right, well, I'm sorry that you guys have to keep hearing that like.
It's not your fault.
Muffling noise, but yeah. So yeah, this helps to put together, audio on one side, so dialogue, go through what you have, and kind of put together your interviews, look at them, look at your B-roll, figure out what should go where, what kind of stuff, how you want it to look, whether you want to add music, whether you don't. Those are all things you should think about during this stage. Then grab your camera, get moving, and make sure to take your script with you just as a guideline. Make sure to check your batteries and your phone or your memory because it can really mess you up if you don't prepare for that. Because the worst that can happen will happen. That's just the bottom line. So now setting up shots. Now, earlier when I was going through this and I was making this and I was putting it together, I wasn't really sure how many of you guys had done video stuff before. So could I get like a hand count on that? Like how many of you guys have done video journalism before? All right, so that's some. It's not a lot. Okay. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning here and just go through really kind of basic, like beginning kind of stuff, like the foundation. The rules there is, those of you who study photography probably know a little bit about this. It's one of the easiest ways to make your videos look more professional. It refers to an imaginary grid that's drawn across the screen. And it looks like this. And basically on each one of those intersecting points is someplace that your subjects or important parts of the photograph should be. So you can use this for interviews. In this case, this is actually not a really great example because he's looking straight at the camera. Generally, if you're doing an interview, you want to be, you want the subject to be looking in the opposite direction. So like if they're here, if they're here and the camera's there, you want them to be looking there, like a little bit to the side of the camera. Because if not, then they kind of just look like they're staring at you, and that can kind of make you feel uncomfortable. You can also use it for scenic shots and B-roll. In this one, it's kind of serving as a frame around the subject, which is apparently the baseball field, and how it kind of gives a moody feel to this one, I think, but let's not get into that. And then use it for pretty much anything else. And it just makes everything look good. It's amazing. Another thing that you need to remember when you're filming is just film everything. Remember, because you can always edit your clips in post-production. You can always edit, and it's always better to have too much material than not enough. Because you'll get into the editing booth and you'll be like, oh my god, I don't have, enough B-roll, and that can be such a pain to go and fix at the last minute. So shoot a scene, and I say maybe not interview several times, but I say that because a lot of times you'll be talking to someone in an interview, and they don't want to repeat what they said, or they can't repeat what they say. I'm one of those people. If you ask me something and ask me to say it twice, I'm probably not going to remember what I said the second time around. And that happens to a lot of people. And so if you can, just try to get an interview from a good place right away. And then for other things like B-roll, try to get multiple shots or multiple angles for diversity. Oh, and shoot tons of B-roll. Like I mentioned before, that can be a huge pain if you figure out that you don't have enough. B-roll, I completely forgot, B-roll is basically, you know how you have the narration, and the guy's like, oh yes, today we're talking about this and this and this, and then, it goes to a picture of a puppy or whatever he's talking about. And the picture of the puppy would be the B-roll. So it's kind of just the video that goes underneath the narration. So shoot tons of that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what kind of B-roll to shoot in a little bit. Oh, keep the camera running. That's another thing. During interviews, just keep it running. You know, because sometimes people get nervous. Sometimes, you know, they clam up. And make sure to tell them afterwards and let them see the footage. And then, you know, they say, oh, please don't print that. Maybe don't do it. Oh, and lighting tips. So if you're shooting with an interview, and we have done this so many times, never shoot with your subject right in front of a window, because what will happen is, you know, as clouds go overhead, they'll get in front of the sun, and then the lighting will change, and it's so hard to fix that in editing, because then you have to deal with the saturation, and you have to fix the brightness, and it's nice. So just, if you can, don't shoot in front of a window. Don't even shoot near a window. Otherwise, if you're shooting B-roll, it's okay to shoot outside because it's outside B-roll, so it's not a big deal. Oh, and never shoot with the lighting right behind the subject, because if you do, you'll kind of get, I don't know if it didn't zoom in on that, but it'll get that weird kind of double land thing going over here, like we see. Your subject will look really dark, and it'll be hard to make out in detail. Actually, that can be useful if you're trying to shoot someone who's anonymous or who didn't want their face in the photo. Then that's an instance in which you would do that. Okay. When you're shooting for sound, when you're shooting, also wear headphones, because it'll be easier for you to tell whether or not you have background noise, because that can ruin your day. Like if you shoot an hour, if you go around for an hour shooting B-roll and you find out that there were some people doing construction next door and that it was all caught on camera, even if it's just B-roll, that can still be annoying. If it's an interview, that can completely ruin it. So make sure that you catch any background noise before you go into it, before you start filming. And try to do what you can about it, or choose another setting, or whatever you have to do to handle that. Also, use a microphone for interviews, preferably not one like this, because it'll annoy me, and it'll probably annoy you too. But yeah, use a microphone, because, well, most cameras don't have, they'll pick up extraneous noises, so yeah. Also, shoot with the set as quiet as possible. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. That does, however, mean turning off any heaters or air conditioners, unless you want to have the heater or the air conditioner on in everything that you shoot. If you know that every interview, everything you do that has sound has that air conditioner roaring in the background, then you can just leave it. But because what'll happen if you don't do that is you'll have some interviews or some things that sound normal, and then some that sound like they're staticky, and that can be, it's uneven. Oh yeah, and also always add in music in post-production. It can be really messy to add in music or to play music while you're doing something, because then you might not get dialogue. It's very hard to control music if it's done during filming. So just add it in editing. Editing and post. Don't be afraid to cut, because you will cut, and you will cut a lot. You'll probably film for like a 2-minute video, you'll probably film 2 to 3 hours of B-roll, interviews, and everything else. And you'll throw out a lot of stuff. So pick the stuff that you like the most. Pick the clips that you think tell the story the best, the quotes that you think are the most relevant or the most powerful, and use those. And don't be afraid to just throw out the other stuff. Also, it's better to have a variety of shots. I mentioned this before, than to just have one static shot from one angle. Oh, and also, yeah, using B-roll effectively. Choose B-roll that fits with your story. So I actually saw this in something that we were looking at last year. It was a dropout story. And there was B-roll. The story was about this guy, and he had dropped out of school, and now he was trying to get himself back together through this dropout recovery program. And in the first draft of the video we saw, they had B-roll of this guy playing video games. That doesn't really seem like something that someone would do that that doesn't create sympathy. It kind of seems like he's not really doing anything in his life. Like, whoa, why would we believe that guy is actually trying to get himself together if he's playing video games? So they changed out that B-roll with B-roll of him studying and with him talking to other people about his studies. So, also, don't contradict your narration. It's not necessary to have every piece of B-roll go perfectly with every word that's spoken in the narration, but make sure that it doesn't completely contradict it, because that can kind of confuse you. It can confuse you as a viewer. Also, you can use graphics. Don't be afraid of graphics, even if they're not super professional looking, because they can really help you show information in a more digestible fashion. Rather than just saying, oh, 50% of all kids, in this area drop out of school, you could say that and then put up a graphic, and it becomes more digestible. Somebody who's just looking at it or who muted the TV, they'll know what you're talking about, and they'll be like, whoa, that's crazy, and they'll start paying attention. It's a good way to just get people to look. And also, if you have pretty colors, that's another good way to get people to look. So use pie charts and bar graphs, etc. to illustrate statistics. And don't overdo it. I've seen this a lot in student productions. Don't, just because you can put glitter all over everything, and just because you can make things pink and fuzzy, or, cover everything with baseballs, don't do that. It's not necessary. You're trying to be professional. You're trying to be, if this is what you're going for, if you're trying to be professional, if you're trying to be taken seriously, use solid colors if you have to use your lower thirds, or, do something that looks professional. Look at the news and kind of gauge what is within reason. And also for transitions. Usually all you need is a cut. You can just cut it. You don't need to fade for the most part. You can for certain things. I can't really explain when you need to do that, because it's kind of just instinctive. You'll just know as you're editing. You'll kind of just know when something doesn't quite go together and you need to put in a dissolve or a fade to make it flow better. So keep it simple. Okay, so here's where the fun comes in. Cutting costs. You don't have a video camera. What do? You can use your cell phone. Yeah, really. Because while, it's not going to churn out anything that's Hollywood quality, your smartphone probably shoots better video than old school digital cameras do. So the best cell phone cameras on the market today, they feature 640 by 45 and 450 pixels at 30 frames per second. Whereas the average YouTube video is a lot less than that. So you can get a cell phone camera or a cell phone and use it as a camera as well. Now, to get the most out of video when you're doing this, you have to use a lot of light. Make sure that your set is really lit up when you're doing interviews or when you're doing anything. Make sure it's really lit up because lower resolution video is harder to see without more light. Like, it has a tendency to blur. Also, find a tripod to use. If you can at all, find a tripod because it'll make things a lot easier. You won't have to stack up books or anything to keep your shot steady. Or you could just go handy cam and kind of work on your grip because, well, that actually is a very useful skill to have, to be able to just go handheld and shoot without shooting really jerky film. But even if the camera has a zoom-in function, don't use it because the film is already low resolution, so well, relatively low resolution. So zooming in will just make it worse. If you have to like zoom in, or if you want to do really dramatic kind of thing, you can add that in post, or you can actually just walk towards the subject. And also, use an editing program that has sharpen and brightness features. This will allow you to kind of make the video a little bit better, less blurry. Also, there's a website called fixmymovie.com. You can pretty much upload any cell phone video, and it'll kind of make it sharper. It'll make it more crisp, more clear, easier to see. And it's actually really good. I thought it was a total sham when I first saw it, but it works. Yeah, and when you're working with your sound, make sure that you have an external microphone. It's even more important if you're using a cell phone or a really low-grade camera because, like I mentioned before, it'll either pick up a whole bunch of like extra sound or it'll just not pick up anything. Either way, that's not fun. Yeah, so silent console is even more important. And also, this is something that you can also do to remove noise in post, is you can film a couple of seconds of just plain old static and then use this program called Audacity. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. It has a noise removal filter that you can use to get rid of static, which is really convenient. And also, since a lot of phone cameras, you'll notice this when you start uploading your things to your computer, a lot of them kind of film in a really weird file format, so you might need like a video converter or something like that to fix them. Although usually they, your phone will come with a program or something to make it usable. If you've lost it or if it doesn't work or whatever, you can probably find a video converter online if you just Google it. Okay, so these are some editing programs, since not everyone can throw down $900 for Final Cut Pro. So for basic editing, like I mentioned, Final Cut Pro is the pricey way. It's one of the most popular editing programs around. It ranges from about $300 if you're buying an older version or whatever if you're buying used, to about $1,000 for buying it new. And it's actually it's a great program, but it's just super expensive. I mean, if you have the money, like, get it, because it's amazing. But if you don't, there are alternatives, and there are tons of them. So the cheapo way is to just use Windows Movie Maker or iMovie. And I know it sounds like, oh, well, iMovie, I hate iMovie, or I hate Windows Movie Maker, blah, 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 blah. Everybody hates those two programs, I know, but they really aren't that bad. They do the basic functions, they cut, they do transitions, basically everything you really need. But if you don't want to use those, if you really hate them, you don't want to use that, you can just use VideoSpin. VideoSpin is free, it's downloadable, and it's extremely user-friendly. but because of that, it's also a little bit limited. So if you want all of the features, just go get something. You can get a free trial of like Sony Vegas, or you can get a free trial of Adobe Premiere from those websites. And that's actually a good thing to do anyway, just because if you can say, you know, if you have to go in for an interview, like, oh, I know how to do Sony Vegas, or I know how to work with Final Cut, that's actually a really great thing to be able to say. It's a good thing to just put on your resume. So, but yeah, so if you want more features, kind of mess around with those. Sound mixing. A lot of you guys might know GarageBand. I don't know how many of you, but GarageBand is a program. I think it's Mac only. Maybe it's not actually. But it offers a way to make music for videos. It's really easy, but it's pretty expensive, meaning you have to pay for it. And why would you pay for something if you can do it for free? And that's what you can do with Audacity. Because with Audacity, all you have to do is download your own loops off of the internet. Like, loops are just short clips of sounds that you can put together in Audacity or another audio editing program to make music or to make a voiceover or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Another great thing about Audacity is that you can actually record live music. So if you know somebody who plays a guitar or something and you want to throw them into an advertisement for your journalism program, you can totally do that. And if you need loops, you can get them from freeloops.com. There's a hyphen in the middle. For background music, you could make your background music like I was just saying, or you could contact record executives and ask them for permission to use their copyrighted works. Or you could, if you don't want to do that, you can just go to creativecommons.org and download unlicensed music. They have a lot of, there's a lot of different types of Creative Commons works. Some of them you're basically able to do anything with, and others are not. And that's kind of what this chart is here. You guys probably can't see it from where you are, but there are certain, you just have to pay attention. It's on the bottom of every Creative Commons page, and it just tells you a little bit about what permissions you're given as an artist to use their work. 3D modeling and graphics. Now I know this isn't really journalism, but it's fun to mess with, and it can be really cool to use this in if you wanted to do a commercial or if you wanted to just do something else. Just try something new for a change. And there are so many free options for this that I can't even go into all of them. So these both are free. Blender is extremely expansive, and it can pretty much do anything, as long as you read the instruction manual about it 5 times. But CineFX is free, it's editing, and it does editing with visual effects, it does animations. It's basically a lot of the stuff that Blender does, but in a more user-friendly way.